Welcome to Aaron's Harp. My name is Darby and I'll be your bartender, and today our special is the Boulervdier. All right, so life's been a little wild, okay? I won't bore you with all the details, but let me jump into this and give my explanation as to why there was no video at all last week and I completely failed in my job to do this. I took a second job. Now that's not, I mean, yeah, that is kind of the reason, but it's also not really the whole reason. I took a second job as an actual bartender so I can do this and get paid, because I don't get paid to do it here. But anyway, enough with all that. So that's kind of why I had to take a minute. I just couldn't get my schedule to work out, and then I still do my normal job. So yeah, just kind of wild. It's been crazy trying to get my schedule worked around and taking on a new job as well as my old job and still working as many hours has been nuts. But anyway, enough with that. Let's jump into today's cocktail. One of my favorites, because it has two things that I love, which is whiskey and Campari. The Boulervdier. It is like the weird cousin that nobody talks about to the Negroni. If the Negroni is like the contemporary, cool, like hip cousin, the Boulervdier is that weird cousin that you invite to the family reunion, but nobody really knows why he's there. But when you get to know him, the guy is sick. All right, so let's jump right into this. This is a whiskey cocktail. As you can see, we only have 3 ingredients. Super simple. All right, it's basically the same thing as a Negroni. It's just slightly different ratios, whereas Negroni is all equal parts. This could be all equal parts, but it's not quite. So anyway, let's jump right into making this thing. Let's talk about our ingredients though. So you're gonna need, of course, Campari. Probably one of the most divisive liqueurs on the market. Some people love it, some people hate it. I personally think that it's an acquired taste. You have to take it at face value. You have to try it a couple of times to really enjoy it. It's interesting. It's very bitter. It's very earthy. You're going to need a sweet red vermouth. Now, this is not a sweet white vermouth, okay? This is specifically a red vermouth. We're using this Martin Rossi, Rosso Sweet Red Vermouth. It's very good. It's easy to come by. It's very cheap. Make sure you keep your vermouths. They will oxidize, so make sure you keep these in the refrigerator or stored, sealed up tight. Okay, preferably in the refrigerator. Don't, if you're unlike me, you don't need these huge bottles. You can get these little guys, and they work great. They're also a lot easier to store. This big guy's kind of difficult to store sometimes. And then last but not least, our whiskey selection. So normally I would be using something like this, or I think something like this. So this one's weird, right? Because the Boulervdier can go kind of into 2 camps. It can be Campari forward and very much more like a Negroni, very earthy Campari, or it can be more whiskey forward. So normally I would use my beloved Rittenhouse rye, but I don't like the Boulervdier, and this is me personally, I don't like the Boulervdier with rye. And I love rye. Rye whiskey next to Irish is my favorite. But for some reason this just doesn't work. And I've tried over and over again, can't get it to work. Now, if you wanted to go something that is more whiskey back and Campari forward, go with something like this, Angel's Envy. This is very soft, very mild tasting. You could also use like Elijah Craig or maybe Jefferson's if you got really crazy. But something like this will definitely take a back seat because it's far more mild. It's not nearly as like potent as punch in your mouth. But today we are using this Old Grandad 114. This is some strong, very high proof, but it's bourbon. Okay, it's not a rye, and it's very good. And I like mine to kind of balance out how bitter this Campari is with kind of how bold that 114 proof bourbon is. If you don't want to use something like this, and you wanted it to still stay kind of more whiskey forward, Basil Hayden's Dark Rye works really well. Bullet Bourbon works really well. There's a bunch of things you can do. This is a cool one to experiment with, kind of working your ratios a little bit. So anyway, enough with all that. Let's get into making this bad boy. Super simple, only 3 ingredients, all right? Let's go ahead with 1 ounce of Campari. 1 ounce of our sweet vermouth. So far, we look pretty much how a Negroni looks, right? Because it's the same thing. And normally you just add a clear gin to this and you'd be done. But we're not doing that today. Today, we're gonna darken things up a little bit with 1.5 ounces of whiskey. Your choice of whiskey, okay? Grab some ice. Give that a quick stir. Chill and dilute, so 10 to 15 seconds, give it a good stir. Pretty much all the water you're gonna get is right here, okay? And the more water you get into this, kind of the less bitter it's gonna be. Just, and you can always splash a little water in there on top if you really wanted to. That would be totally cool. All right, let's grab our glass. Oh, I forgot an ice cube. Knew I forgot something. Grab an ice cube, drop that bad boy in there. My strainer's wearing out. Oh, I'm so excited about this. There we have it. Normally, if I had an orange, I'd put an orange peel right on top, same way as I would do a Negroni, okay? I don't have any oranges, I haven't been grocery shopping, and I have been out of Dodge pretty much all week, so kind of just going with what we got here today. Don't do that at home. Serve this with your normal cocktail straws, but I only have these ones, which are kind of weird and they're really, really flimsy and I don't like drinking out of them. But anyway, there you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, the weird cousin that's actually really awesome, the Boulervdier. Oh, see, and that is, all right, let's talk about this for just a second. I won't bore you too long with this, but we have to talk about it. Because right up front, Campari forward, I mean, it's just like a Negroni, very Campari. But in a Negroni, you don't get that whiskey heat. There is something special about making the Boulevardier, especially with 1.5 ounces of whiskey as opposed to 1 ounce of gin, right? Because the Negroni's all equal parts, it's all 1 ounce. But adding a little extra whiskey, especially something so high proof, makes it so it's sweet, right? It almost that vermouth almost wants to like come forward because it's not dragged backwards. In a regular Negroni, you've got kind of 2 earth flavors coming together, right? And it really drowns out the sweetness. Because gin, typically, like something like your Beefeater, I mean, even if you smell Beefeater, right? You can smell trees, right? You can smell that juniper. And when you make 2 very dominantly earth flavors, right, kind of collide, your sweetness, which is where your vermouth comes in, your sweetness is drawn so far into the background. This is almost more balanced. It's almost more drinkable because now there's a hint of sweetness, there's a hint of earth, and there's a hint of heat. You get all 3 things in one sip and it works so well together. I'm gonna stop raving about. This is one of my favorite cocktails that is super underrated. Nobody pays attention to the Boulervdier, and I really wish they would because it's awesome. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being so patient with me while I got things situated. I'm gonna try and get my schedule back on track. Hopefully Saturday uploads will continue to be a thing. Thank you guys so much for supporting me in this. I've seen more and more subscribers, and that really does make a difference. So thank you guys. I really do appreciate it. If you don't mind, take just a second, leave a comment, drop a like, share this video with somebody who should try something unusual, because you never know how cool the unusual will be. Don't drink and drive, drink responsibly, tip your bartenders. We'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Drink a cocktail. Cheers. Oh man. Yep.